Hello, yes, Shay and Kevin here with you on SportsCenter. We heard today from the Panthers brass it might not be a walk in the park for Baker Mayfield to earn that starting role for the Panthers. And in golf, Open starts Thursday. Tiger continuing to raise eyebrows.
Plus, the baseball team that has been the biggest surprise so far this season. But first, we start in the NBA. Breaking news coming out of Utah. Senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski says the Jazz are listening to possible trade proposals for star Donovan Mitchell. They had previously shut down any talks surrounding Mitchell, but after dealing center Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves in a blockbuster, they are no longer dismissing calls about the 25-year-old Jazz All-Star. Senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski broke the story and joins us now with much more. Woj, so after the Gobert trade, what changed about Utah and their plans for Mitchell?
Kevin, simply, Utah's willingness now to listen to overtures on Donovan Mitchell. The return they got on Rudy Gobert was significant, essentially 5 first-round picks. And now Donovan Mitchell, teams had been calling, and the Jazz had been shutting them down, saying we are not interested in listening. But I'm told they are listening now. And it would take, a significant offer to get Donovan Mitchell out of Utah. Now, they're listening on all their players. I think they're open to listening on everybody on that roster, but certainly Donovan Mitchell is their most significant player, their most significant asset. 4 years left on a max deal, but the Jazz now are willing to listen to teams as they call and make trade pitches, and that's clearly a change in direction for this organization. Their general manager, Justin Zanuck, said the other day, and perhaps started to open the door to it by saying essentially nobody's untouchable on this roster, and it's not their intention to trade Donovan Mitchell, but clearly now their willingness to listen, certainly, and it opens up a lot of avenues around the league. This is a player coveted by numerous teams, and certainly when you see a trade market that includes Kevin Durant, players of that caliber, all of a sudden it can possibly open up, multi-team scenarios as we continue in trade season well into the summer.
Yeah, and you outlined it. 4 years left on his contract, a max deal. You're there at the Summer League. We got other NBA news. They're percolating. After 2 years, the play-in tournament already feels like commonplace in the NBA postseason. The league had been voting on a year-to-year basis, but they're expected after today's ownership meetings at the Summer League that the play-in tournament will be a regular part of future seasons. So Woj, here, the play-in is here to stay. Why has this format been so successful the last couple seasons?
Hey, Kevin, it certainly generated a lot of excitement. There's been some dramatic games, and part of why the league wanted to do it was to try to curb tanking among teams. The 7 through 10 teams obviously compete, to get the 7th or 8th seed and the 8th seed in the playoffs, both conferences. I think it's keeping more teams trying to be competitive, to get to the 10th seed, and the race for the 6th seed has become more interesting. And I think the league believes, certainly financially moving forward, it's something they can continue to generate revenue around. But the Board of Governors in today's meeting, they're expected to rather easily pass the play-in to be now a yearly part of the NBA calendar.
More teams, more fan bases. I love it the last 2 years. Woj is on standby if we have more breaking news from the Summer League games later on SportsCenter.
Send KG and Paul Pierce to Brooklyn along with Jason Terry in exchange for a package that includes 3 first-round draft picks and 3 players.
Well, first and foremost, clearly the players coming back completely irrelevant. None of those guys that they got back, Chris Humphries, Wallace, Bogans, any of those guys play into the Celtics' future plans. It's all about the picks.
Brooklyn native Chris Rock saying the Nets just traded 3 first-round picks to be in 4th place for 1 year.
With the 3rd pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown with the finish.
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
Tim Legler looks exactly the same. Welcome back to NBA Today. We are joined now by ESPN NBA front office insider Bobby Marks, NBA reporter Dave McMenamin, Zach Lowe. Bobby, I'm sorry.
It's the 9-year anniversary of the Nets trading Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. And I feel like I'm the mean one. I'm always the one that's like, oh, yeah, let's have Bobby on the anniversary just to go like that. Are you okay? Are we good?
I wore Celtic green in honor of it.
Oh, see, look at that. Water under the bridge, right? There it is. Well, we can move forward now, though, Bobby, because the Nets, they're staring down yet another rebuild, right, if they do end up trading Kevin Durant. What do you think is the most realistic return that Brooklyn could get for KD that would minimize that rebuild window?
Yeah, and I think, Malika, it's a lot different than back in 2015 or 14 after Paul Pierce left and we traded Kevin Garnett for Thaddeus Young. Here you have Kevin Durant, 33 years old, MVP candidate, will not leave for nothing here. So when you're looking at Brooklyn, you will get 4 first-round picks. You will get pick swaps for him. The goal now is to get that established young player, and the likelihood is that a player like Scotty Barnes is off the table. Now, who is going to be that next player or players? That's the big thing for Brooklyn. And remember, they don't have their own first-round picks, right? That's going to Houston as far as the James Harden trade here. So it's not like you can kind of hit rock bottom, build through the draft like Oklahoma City's been doing. Yeah. You almost have to do somewhat of an accelerated rebuild here, and that's the goal for Brooklyn, the picks, the swaps, and then get at least one good young player on a controllable contract.
Yeah. Well, we heard our Adrian Wojnarowski, when he joined the show earlier, say that right now it looks like the Nets are focused in on Kevin Durant and what he may decide to do, whether they're able to come up with that package to a steep price that they're talking about, or if he could be on the roster. We'll see how that plays out. But that's where their focus lies. Kyrie Irving is a secondary domino. But Dave, how do you think the Lakers are going to proceed if the Nets appear to be holding on to Kyrie Irving?
Well, they have to figure this thing out, Malika. They are waiting to see if Brooklyn will, in fact, decide to try to bring both those guys back. And the thing I learned in reporting the last couple of days in Vegas is that it seems to be the summation of the Nets thinking is that Kevin Durant made a decision to ask for this trade at a time where emotions were running high, seeing his former team, the Warriors, win a championship, and perhaps with the passage of time, he'd want to come back to the fold. And they're not going to make a move like trading Kyrie Irving until they hear it from the horse's mouth and they get a clear message from Kevin Durant what his intentions are moving forward. Because quite frankly, if they were to move Kyrie, that could be the thing that triggers KD to say, I definitely want out. Maybe they could convince everyone involved that let's give this another shot. And that's why it's unlikely for the Lakers to be able to pry Kyrie away in the interim. And at some point, they'll have to start looking at a plan B or a plan C.
Well, that's why sometimes it's just like, okay, what do you say to children, right? Just take a deep breath, and we're all gonna figure it out. And that could be what we see happen here. Zach, you've had a couple of days to take some deep breaths. You've been off KD Kyrie duty for a little bit, so let's put you back on it. What do you think of everything we just heard?
I think it's all dead on, and really, in the last couple of days, nothing all that notable has happened. The market is kind of frozen. It is where it is. They're not getting the requisite offers that they think they should get for Kevin Durant. And the Kyrie Irving thing, as Woj reported, comes secondary to that. Right now, it looks like, buckle up, we're in for a long haul. But like Bobby said, whether they get the home run trade for Kevin Durant or not, they're still going to come out with a lot of stuff. What that stuff is, whether it's veterans, young players, a little bit of everything, the Nets will come out of this. Remember, Ben Simmons is still on their team, presumably. They're going to come out with some kind of direction.
It's going to be interesting to watch all of that play out. And also DeAndre Ayton, right? We know that Woj reported that the whole market was sort of in a holding pattern for a little bit, waiting for Kevin Durant. But if that domino isn't going to fall, some decisions are going to need to be made on the DeAndre Ayton front. So we'll stay tuned for that. But our producers just told me that earlier, Bobby, on This Just In, you had something that all of us here need to hear. So I'm just going to play that for everybody.
And I'm going to stun you with this take here. I actually think Steph Curry is the second best player of all time, right behind Michael Jordan. Curry has this instinct, what I saw with Jordan, where anytime he has the ball, you think it's going to go in. He is a threat offensively. I think we've got 3 or 4 more years of Curry in his prime right now. I think we could probably do another 15 minutes on what I just said.
I'm floored. I'm absolutely
but
floored.
I think I would put Curry ahead of LeBron James right now.
I just want to make sure we're being clear here.
Yes.
Are you projecting the rest of his career, saying he'll get there? Or are you saying right now?
Right now.
Ow! That is, wow, that is flaming, that is spicy, that is hot. I know that Steph himself said that he feels like he is in the prime of his career right now. But Bobby, the floor is yours. Please explain yourself.
I think I had an out-of-body experience about an hour ago. I think that's what happened.
Sure.
I think Vegas